Welcome to the Empire. This is Rampart, and welcome to another development update for Project Renaissance, where today I want to do a small little update after it's been a while since we've done one. It's probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one today, as you guys might be able to tell. I am a little sick. And but there were a couple things I wanted to at least kind of discuss and kind of showcase as to what we've been focusing on recently. For the most part, first and foremost, really gotta say I really appreciate how everyone's been really appreciating the interviews. I'm going to be trying to look out to try and reach out to more people probably after this development update is released, where I really appreciated the one I was able to do with the Terminator recently. That actually drew a lot of interest to the project, where if you guys have not already seen, we have now a public Discord for the project. If you're interested in joining that link will be in the description. And then also, again, I have all those interviews that you guys can watch and just enjoy. So that kind of really emphasizes how, for me personally today, a lot of the work so far in Project Renaissance recently has been a lot of reaching out to people, a lot of networking. Recently talked to a technology evangelist for Epic Games, getting us some basically a possible contact for indie development, where essentially kind of going over some possible resources and things to see ways that they can kind of support us. The guy's also just a fan of the Total War series in general, so that's part of the reason why he reached out to me. So like we have an idea of like, hey, right now, again, reiterating, current focus on the project right now is, and I will talk about this a little bit today, is currently we're focusing on our battle prototype. That's basically what we're focusing on right now. You also probably be wondering, what the fuck is this thing behind me on the screen? You'll find that in a second. You might be able to put some things together as if you can look at the names of the files. I'm gonna ramble a lot today, possibly too. But basically, like, hey, some resources. I know the one thing I'm very interested in, and this is why we want to make sure we're focusing on our battle prototype so much, is I did not know about it's the mega grant thing for Epic Games, where that's something I think our project will possibly be looking into. It is non-binding, but it is essentially just, hey, here's free money for your project if you are selected and given this grant. So hey, inspiration for us to try and do the best we can with our project to be able to get something set up so we can try and apply for that and get more proper funding for this this project, which I would love. So that's one thing. Besides that, we have new people. We have another person has joined recently. I've been trying to slow down recruitment right now. We have at least another proper software developer. This person now has more experience with AI, which is what we kind of needed. Actually, I might kind of lead into what I'm going to be talking about a little bit when I show more of the document I've got up there in a second. So we've got a couple more people. We now have 16 people in the project total. I know there's a couple of people I need to reach out to that have offered interest in voice acting. I do need to look into those. If you guys have emailed me about that, please give me references or like audio samples. That's the best way to make sure that I'll be able to like get through your stuff and find people that I would most likely want to have join the project for possible voice acting. I know that's a huge thing that would be kind of cool right now as well. But that's about all of the tiny little nitty-gritty things. So one thing that I kind of want to showcase as what we've been trying to think about, or at least what the researchers and artists have been trying to focus on in the project while we've been focusing on the development of a battle prototype, is coinciding with that. It's like, okay, while they're trying to figure that all out, and this will make more sense when I talk about the document a bit more, is, okay, we need to kind of figure out a bit more like the aesthetics and the research around certain units. And so we have put together a mood board to kind of try and get an idea of what is the aesthetic and feeling we're trying to showcase. This is just our first iteration right now of what we're doing for a mood board. We might change this over time, but we're just trying to get an idea of what does it mean to be in the medieval period. What does it mean to be in the Renaissance period? And like, what kind of aesthetic, what kind of feeling are we trying to provoke with this game? And so, hey, this is a cool little collage of random pictures, and we had a ton of random crap that we just all threw together to kind of get an idea of what is this supposed to look and feel like. Because I know right now, when we think about the battle prototype, we're thinking very simplistic terms, and how are we putting this together to just get the very fundamentals down to make sure the battles feel good. But once we get to a certain point, and what we can do while we're trying to figure out those specifics is, hey, let's try and figure out what exactly is the theme and kind of the aesthetic that we want to strive for. What emotion do we want to strive for from our units and our UI and all that stuff. And that's something we can do kind of parallel to our battle development, which I think makes a lot of sense. We're trying to make use of that the best we can, try and do parallel development on certain ideas, which, hey, all of our focus right now is on the battle prototype. Which, speaking of which, I will kind of showcase a little bit of our alpha development pipeline, which is something that I have recently put together and coinciding with Jack, one of our guys in the team, to try and get the best idea of the most fundamental things that we're trying to focus on in the easiest, simplest steps that we can to slowly but surely make sure, hey, this is like our slow, one step at a time to get the battle prototype together. To me, it makes a lot of sense to kind of do it this way, where initially, like, we're slowly thinking about a little ahead as well. Also, like, hey, eventually we know we're gonna have to figure out exactly putting this on paper. What are the foundational like campaign features? But for right now, it's been mostly fleshed out on primarily the battle features and slowly up to the siege features too. So I can kind of scroll through this a little bit, where ideally the idea is like, okay, so most simplistic way we can initially think about putting this in. This is at least my mentality on what makes sense to me. Our main coder, Corey, has already been doing some stuff and been playing around with a bunch of plugins where he's pretty confident that we should be able to meet a standard of size of units, like number of units. Ideally, we should be able to. I'm gonna hope that stands out to question once we start adding in more more animations and more models and more unique models and stuff like that. So right now it's just like, hey, first initial battle prototype, we're just trying to use some very basic squares, and I actually have a little bit of a thing that I'll kind of showcase that I have access at the moment. There is more that we have been able to slowly, or like we've been working on while I've been focusing on interviews, but at the moment right now, waiting for the repository to be updated. But my brother, my man is in Australia, and so I have to wait a while until he's actually able to update it. So when I usually do these recordings, kind of have to wait on that. But essentially, same idea. Like, I'm trying to just get some like very basic ideas here. Hey, cubes for infantry, diamonds for archers, rectangles for infantry. Just get very basic ideas to get this down on paper, so we know exactly kind of an initial starting point on how we're going to be trying to mechanically actually code this. Like, that's the idea right now that we're doing, especially for this battle prototype 1, which you can see, hey, initially this is just focusing on basic movement, basic attacks, basic deaths. Then we switch into archers. We're adding in some basic range attacks. Again, we're taking a lot of inspiration, or at least I think this makes a lot of sense initially, to try and stat these similar to like Dungeons and Dragons, initially at least. And then, hey, we're kind of running on in here, kind of making it so we're focusing on trying to run them forward a bit, charge attack orders. And so, like, this is the idea of like the plan on how we're trying to get this battle prototype together. I know Corey's been kind of jumping ahead a little bit in some of the ways that he's going a bit about this, and just essentially, when I initially set this up, I'm like, oh yeah, let's just do this like one square at a time. He's like, nah, I can go bigger. I can have the formations already there. And so on and so forth. But you guys can kind of see that I'll kind of scroll through this a little bit more. Like, we're thinking of the most basic foundational things that we want to have stats and that we want to keep track of, like the most fundamental ones. Like, what are the most fundamental things to try and have a good battle prototype? And so, like, hey, we got stamina, we got exhaustion, morale, routing, morale shocks. Some of these I know are very subject to change depending on how it actually feels in the battle. Because eventually, yeah, this is just the phase 1, which I'm hoping that by the time we have this phase 1 completed, which this document is essentially just trying to showcase what we're doing for the next couple months, basically, and I'll be able to give more specific updates when we have more things on this done, essentially. We've talked about the idea of hoping to try and have some sort of playable demo. I would personally love to be able to try and have it so that once we get this first basic phase 1 done, it's just going to be a bunch of cubes and things like slowly attacking each other with no actual animations, but it'll have the most fundamental aspects of our battles that we are playing around with. And at that point, if we can have a playable demo, I want to try and have it so that we can say, hey, to the community, here we go. This is showcasing we can do something. We are slowly making progress here. And This is the battle prototype. Does anybody want to try out this initial battle prototype? It's just cubes, little cubes just killing each other. But hey, it can get the idea across of what we're trying to strive for and get feedback on how do these systems feel so far. Like, this makes sense to me, kind of, the morale shock thing. But is that too harsh? Is it not harsh enough? Because we want to have the right balance, because I know so badly that battles have to be just right. They have to be just right. And if I can make battles feel good or better than what Total War can achieve, you don't need to have so many complicated different systems. You can just have just a bunch of simple little things that add on to each other. That's at least my mentality on how I have been putting this stuff together on what it should be for battles. A bunch of simple little things that add on together to make a more complicated system. That's not that bad. Because I'd love to get people's feedback once we get to this point. That's something for sure I'd like to do. But hey, then we lead on to the second section. So this is more the kind of the more essential battle features. So this is kind of expanding a little bit more once we had the very basic one. This is where we're trying to then actually introduce actual rosters with different stat variations and so on and so forth. So like for the, again, our first initial release, if we are able to get to an early access release, or essentially like the first playable proper campaign, is just going to be Saxons and Normans fighting each other in England, and ideally we'd be able to have a couple other factions by that point when we do a full early access release. But hey, this is like now we're trying out the battles now with proper different factions, and we're actually going to be starting to try and balance these units to make sure those feel good. This is another area where, like, hey, I could also see us trying to get more possible playtesting and possible feedback on this. This will be when we start trying to actually implement proper AI, or the enemy AI, because this first part, at least, this is just all us just trying to get the mechanics down, so we don't need an enemy AI just yet. It's just trying to make sure, hey, if I take this little square, if I take this square dude, can he go over here and kill this other just stationary square dude? That's the most important aspect of it. And I'm hoping that the addition of our new guy, this was Luis, just joined our team. He's got some experience with AI, that we'll be able to properly get a good AI here. I know we have been playing around with the idea, and this has been suggested, and I know I don't know how well this would work, but it would be something like initially, what we have at least written right here, is kind of not going towards the idea of a machine learning algorithm for the AI. In my own experience, I actually have played around with them. I still have my code for a Python machine learning algorithm that I developed. I can see how it might be something that we would possibly want to utilize, but also there are some instances where a machine learning algorithm that is trained on like one worry I have is just the amount of data we need to get a proper AI developed for that. But then also there are instances where it could actually be stupider than AI that CA has made, because if it gets overtrained accidentally, like, hey, it's like, oh, I'm used to just doing this based on this playstyle, but oh, I don't know, I haven't seen this instance here, I don't know what to do here. So it's something I played around with, I've thought about, and it's actually one reason why, like, I know there's one other guy that tried to join, that offered to join. He has very similar experience to me, actually, because he also has some experience in machine learning algorithms, and so I'm kind of hesitant to focus in on that idea too much, because I know there's been a lot of hype around AIs and like things with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is just essentially a very good machine learning algorithm of just guessing what words go where, essentially. But that's something we've thought about. I think we're leaning more towards basically just decision trees right now. I just kind of see how it feels. If AI is able to make simple and good enough decisions with just that, I'm not opposed, but I also don't want us to get too focused in on a feature that might not be more beneficial enough for what it's worth, possibly. Now you can see, like, once I start getting to this section, this is kind of where we start kind of there's not as much written here for right now, because we've been focusing primarily just on the first and second phases right now, because that's what we're currently trying to develop. But eventually then we want to then start trying to slowly expand out next, that, hey, we're just slowly adding a little bit each time. That's the basic idea about this alpha development pipeline, at least for my thought, is just slowly build up onto it, because I don't want us to try and develop way too many things all at once and then just kind of lose sight of what we're doing. That's kind of my thought process. And essentially, that's kind of about all I have really today for you guys. There is one other little thing. This is a little bit of a preview because I'll be having it, so I'll be able to showcase more of this property when I get the updated repository. But we do have movement of formations. It's nice and smooth. We will still have to have it so that we want to try and have it so we can maybe have it so these guys don't stay so uniform. Like, this is very blocky right now, but it's a proof of concept that we have been able to implement movement for these units. They're responding to movement orders, and this is actually like 2 weeks old now at this point, actually, from what Corey was able to show me. And so I think he's been able to make a little bit more progress since then. He's just trying to make sure that everything's all set and good before he updates the repository. And so that will hopefully be what I am able to showcase in the next development update. For right now, at least, this is just a kind of a small, short little thing, just kind of showcasing the alpha development pipeline, kind of get an idea of what our current plan is. Essentially, you could almost view this as a roadmap of how we're slowly building up to the final product, which it makes it feel so much better that I can see just tiny little improvements through this document of like what we're trying to focus on. But for right now, at least, I think that is a good place to end this video for right now. Any thoughts you guys have on what I've discussed for today? I love hearing that. Also, again, just supporting the videos, that really helps the channel and the project, so feel free to do that. Like, share, give the algorithm its stupid sacrifices. All that's great and good. So I'm going to hope you guys will appreciate this video. I will hope that the next thing you guys will probably see on the channel is, I'm hoping it'll be another interview. I think those are the easiest things for me to be able to try and kind of do while we're waiting to actually showcase stuff is happening, by like, hey, still trying to engage with the community and just get a bunch of ideas on those videos, which also you guys can also just now go to our proper Discord to also leave ideas about the game as well. But I'm going to hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rampart, and I'll see you guys next time.